All right, let's talk about cellulite, everyone's favorite topic. Um, what is cellulite? How can we deal with it? And more specifically, how do we deal with it in the Radiant Goddess Academy Glow program? Well, cellulite is definitely a multi system condition. It goes beyond beauty. It is a dysfunction of our fascial tissue combined with likely some hormonal imbalance, which I'll get more into, and some nervous system dysfunction as well as poor circulation or circulatory congestion, let's call it. And so we need to get at it from all of those different aspects. So it gets into digestion and nutrition. It gets into herbal care for balancing hormones. It gets into posture, which is extremely important, and fascial therapies, which I talk a lot about, but cupping, bleeding, blasting, self-massage. And it gets into nervous system health, which has to do with deep nutrition, acupressure, mindset work, bioenergetic healing, visualizations. A lot goes into that aspect of it as well. So, if cellulite is one of our main complaints, it's likely that we're also struggling with stubborn weight loss or weight balancing, and there are reasons why we are not able to lose weight as effectively once we start aging. And that has to do with all of those factors that are causing the cellulite in the first place. One is poor circulation. So even if we're eating healthy, if our circulation isn't good, especially to our legs, if we have poor circulation, cold feet, varicose veins or spider veins, and cellulite, that's a sign that we are not having a good enough circulation to our legs. And so in order to deal with that, we can use specific exercises and massage to help push fluid out that may be blocking it, break up fascial adhesions, which may be compressing, and take herbal formulas and eat foods that can help support optimal circulation. So when we don't have good circulation, we get waste products building up. And those waste products often are irritating to our muscle tissue. Our nervous system as well can get irritated by a buildup of waste products. We can think of waste products as toxins in the sense that our body cannot really use them. It wants to get rid of them, but they're not necessarily toxic in and of themselves. Some things we naturally produce and aren't really toxic until they get to a certain point where our body just can't use them anymore. Salt, for example, our body needs salt, but if we have too much salt in our bloodstream, then it can cause a lot of issues. It's the same and a lot of these toxins are actually salts or more of like a crystalline format, which can be very irritating. And so it's important to make sure that we have good, not only blood circulation, but also lymphatic circulation. Our lymphatic system is another really important piece in cellulite health and cellulite recovery. And because this lymphatic system is kind of our sewage system, and it carries a lot of the waste products that build up in our blood to be processed. However, if our circulatory system's backed up, our lymphatic system's backed up, those waste products are going to build and build. And our body starts basically to protect itself, it will start sticking together. The muscle fibers or anything that's irritated will secrete a sticky substance to protect themselves, and it causes them to stick together. These are called adhesions. And the adhesions can be in the muscle tissue itself because the connective tissue that causes the adhesions runs through our muscles, or it can be around the muscle. It can be anywhere in the body where there is weakness. And so if we know that we have a weakness, it's important to pay a lot of attention to that area. For women, particularly, a main area of weakness can be the hips. We have wider hips than men, especially after we've given birth. It can be a big issue. And, we can just not really be able to feel supported enough. Our bodies can be struggling to just stay balanced and to have good posture. So if we're kind of constantly in a poor posture, even if we're trying to have good posture, we can still struggle with that. And if the way we move isn't really supporting good body mechanics, tension will start to build up, and that can cause weakness as well. So we can get it from a dysfunction in an area from a number of different ways. The other thing that can happen, and that often happens with stubborn weight loss and cellulite as well, is that we get a buildup of hormones in our body. And this is another type of so-called toxin that is actually, we require it, we actually make them, but that can build up to toxic levels in our body. And the main one that causes an issue for modern women is estrogen. And estrogen is important for a healthy fertility. It's important for a healthy menstruation. If we have too much estrogen, then our body can create too thick of a endometrial lining, and it can cause heavy menses, lots of cramping, things like that. Generally, if it's just a case of imbalanced, what we call endogenous hormones, or hormones that our body makes, then we can usually balance that with nutrition and herbal therapy. However, we are dealing in modern times with an excess of synthetic estrogens, which are from plastics, are from medications, from pesticides and other chemical products. And so those can actually build up in our system and block our estrogen receptors. So the estrogen that we're making cannot get used. And so then that estrogen will build up in our blood to toxic levels, and our body needs to do something with it. So it stores it in fat. And when we try and lose weight, and that fat that we're trying to lose or release is filled with estrogen and possibly other toxins, they get released into our bloodstream and our body can't process them. So, and a big part of that, the reason why our body can't process them, is because of congested lymphatic system and a congested liver. Our liver is the organ that processes a lot of toxins, self-made or not, and especially processes extra hormones for recycling. So if it can't do that because it's too congested, then the estrogen is going to be built up to unhealthy levels in our bloodstream, and our body will want to restore that estrogen and fat. Well, if we're losing weight, we're not eating excess foods and we're getting good exercise, we start losing weight, everything can be going good until we release enough of those estrogens to cause an issue. And then a switch will flip, and our body will go, oh no, we need to do something about this. And it will actually lower your metabolism. And so your metabolism is strongly related to your thyroid, to your liver, to your digestion, to all kinds of things. But what it will do is downregulate your metabolism. It'll say, okay, we want to start gaining weight again. We don't want to keep losing weight, so we need to lower the metabolism so you can eat the same amount of foods, get the same amount of exercise, and stop losing weight. And this is pretty common for women as we age, especially modern women, because we get a buildup of these synthetic estrogens blocking our receptors. This is part of why we have so much infertility and menstrual issues, gynecological issues in modern times. Part of it is stress, of course, but in reality, a big part of it is these synthetic estrogens. And so we also look at lifestyle, like how do we avoid synthetic estrogens as much as possible while integrating these other practices to make sure that they're most effective. And there's lots of, interesting things that you can do around that. But, just starting out by reducing what you can of plastics, eating organic, low hormone meats. There's little nutritional tricks that you can do. Eating a couple raw carrots a day or a raw carrot a day can help bind to synthetic estrogen. It might not necessarily resolve the synthetic estrogen issue, though. So you've got to be aware that you need to deal with the hormone imbalance, you need to get it on a number of different levels as well. Luckily, dealing with hormone imbalance will also support cellulite recovery. If you have chronic pain, which is really common with cellulite issues, then working on your cellulite will help resolve some of that pain as well, depending on where you're working and where your pain is. There are a lot of women that have cellulite and don't realize it, in that what they have is myofascial dysfunction, a dysfunction of the connective tissue. They may not have fat pressing out on it, where they're seeing those ripples, but there's still a dysfunction there. And so that's important to note. If you're having chronic pain, especially, in your legs and hips, that doing the protocols that support cellulite recovery can also help with chronic pain. So if you have both, you can start with this program and then go to the chronic pain, specific chronic pain courses if you need, or if you aren't necessarily dealing with a lot of cellulite, but you have a lot of chronic pain, just go to the areas where you need to focus on. So how do we deal with cellulite in the Radiant Goddess Academy and the Glow program? So we talked about nutrition. Nutrition is an important one. Eating relatively healthy, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, we want to avoid striving for perfection because that can cause a lot of stress on the liver, which can decrease its function, cause more congestion. So we eat as healthy as we can without causing more stress. We eat foods that bring us joy because that supports our digestion. So I think of it as causing mouthgasms. We want to create a sense of joy for our taste buds. We want saliva to fill our mouths when we think about food because that primes our digestion. It basically turns on our biocomputer. We have a motherboard in our mouth. We've got, our brain computer, we've got our belly computer, and we've got a computer, our taste buds basically are our computer. And so we can work in conjunction, all of those different aspects of our biocomputer together to create a intuitive sense of what our body wants. And generally the foods that we crave on that level are the ones that are healthiest for us. There are times, of course, when we want something that's not necessarily the best for us. But assuming that you're not allergic to it, if it's a mild intolerance or maybe just something like that's not ideal to eat and your body's really strongly asked for it, I generally recommend going with it and at least trying a little bit. And if it's something you're really strongly craving, possibly allowing your body as much as it wants. Obviously, if you are extremely intolerant of something and it causes you a lot of distress, you will want to take that into consideration. But if it's just foods, like maybe you're craving a specific dessert, something that's very nostalgic from your childhood, and you are doing emotional processing and your body's saying, let's do this, there's usually a pretty good reason for that. Sometimes it's an inner child thing. Sometimes it is a nutritional thing. So you just kind of have to play around with that and see. But generally, what I've found is in combining intuitive eating, generally healthy eating informed by intuition, combined with myofascial therapies, herbal support, mindset practices to make sure that we're feeling good about our journey, that we have the self-love we need, regardless of our size, regardless of our age. We're allowing ourselves to love ourselves. At the same time, finding the motivation to keep moving forward. And what I found in working with clients and myself too is that when we can combine those two things, a deep self-love, no matter where we are at in our age, shape, or size, financial status, any of that, as well as a strong motivation to move forward, that we tend to get better and more lasting results than if we're doing a quick diet program out of hatred, or really pushing ourselves in ways that our body does not respond well to. So using our intuition, using our self-love, doing all of these different practices really increases chance of success. And I will say that since learning about myofascial health and working that into my routine along with everything else that I'm doing, I have been able to significantly cut down on my chronic pain. My skin is looking better than ever. This is me without makeup and without actually doing my facial self-care practices in quite a while, just because I've been so busy. But I am going to be starting up again, so I'm actually glad that you get to see me without the intensive self-care that I recommend doing. And I'm sort of, as far as cellulite goes, I'm also sort of midway in that process as well. So you'll be able to see some of my transformation, and as I show you how the process works, which I find very interesting. I like seeing how practitioners work through with their own processes. So hopefully you'll like that too. And so with regards to cellulite, we start out and we're kind of working the superficial areas. Almost pretty quickly, almost immediately, you'll notice some smoothing of your skin, which is awesome. Who wouldn't want that? You'll start to get a little more lift and tone to your skin. As you start working deeper into the layers, sometimes it will actually look a little bit worse. They call it worse before better. But that's a good sign that you're progressing. And then at some point you will break through that and kind of get the last little bit of cellulite. And that is a different time period for everyone. It's not really something that you can say, it takes this long or that long. But in general, I have found that it takes, for every month of chronic pain and cellulite and stubborn weight loss, kind of from the beginning of when you first started experiencing it, it will take a solid treatment. So, if it's been a decade, it'll be a process. But what's nice is that you start seeing the effects quickly and you start getting relief quickly. So even though it's a commitment, it's definitely worth it. And there are so many stories and pictures of women that have just used the myofascial therapies and are getting amazing results. So, if you add in all of these other things, I've personally found that the results are really amazing. And, sometimes I struggle with keeping up with my own self-care. I'm busy just like everybody else. But when I do it consistently, I find that I'm actually seeing the amazing results myself. So I'm going to set up some videos showing you how the basic processes work, and you'll get to see the immediate results. And then if you stay tuned, you'll be able to see the longer results that I get using these protocols. So stay tuned. As always, message me if you want to find out more. If you want to get started right away, we can do that. Or if you just need to get some more details, I am here. Go ahead and message me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.